Welcome, 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 everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're really embarking on quite a journey. It's into a story that, well, it doesn't just entertain you; it kind of burrows deep. Changes how you look at things, stays with you. We are diving deep into The Green Mile, that iconic 1999 supernatural drama. Frank Darabont directed it, of course, and it's just a masterful adaptation of Stephen King's serialized novel. Our mission, like always here on the deep dive, is to meticulously unpack the layers, all those intricate layers of this incredibly emotionally charged narrative. We're going to explore its unforgettable characters, the truly shocking twists, ones that really challenge your understanding of, well, justice and faith, and the profound, deeply human themes, all from the source material you've given us. The film itself, it's told through this powerful kind of melancholic flashback. It focuses on a death row corrections officer, Paul Edgecomb, and his time working in this place of chilling finality, a place that really tests the limits of human compassion.
Okay, let's unpack this. There's just so much rich detail and emotional complexity to explore in this story.
And it starts in a very unexpected place, almost feels like centuries later.
Indeed. And that's really key, isn't it? The film doesn't just drop us straight into the grim reality of 1935 Louisiana. It very deliberately opens somewhere else entirely. A quiet, almost sterile nursing home. And there we meet an elderly Paul Edgecomb. This framing device, it's absolutely crucial. It immediately sets this tone of deep reflection, regret, you could say, the immense weight of memory. It signals to you, the listener, right away that what you're about to witness isn't just a story being told, but it's a profound reminiscence, a burden he's carried across decades.
Exactly. And we meet this elderly Paul, clearly a man burdened by his past. He's deeply moved after watching, of all things, the classic Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers musical Top Hat. Now, on the surface, a joyous, escapist musical, dancing, romance. It seems utterly disconnected from the brutal world of death row. Yet it's this very film, with its seemingly innocent, lighthearted joy, that acts as this powerful, almost painful trigger for Paul. It reminds him of a time of just unimaginable darkness, yes, but also of the most extraordinary, maybe inexplicable man he ever met. He confides this memory to his friend Elaine there in the nursing home, and that conversation, that's our way in. It's our narrative portal. It pulls us back in time with Paul as he starts recounting the seismic events of 1935, back when he was a supervisor on death row at Cold Mountain Penitentiary. This choice, starting in the present, then going back, it immediately sets this tone of gravitas. You understand the profound, lifelong impact these events had on Paul, even before the main story really gets going. From the start, this isn't just a tale. It's a defining, soul-altering experience that shaped his entire existence.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how the physical space, the Green Mile itself, it's not just a backdrop. It really becomes an active character in the story. It's heavy with symbolic meaning, this oppressive atmosphere, even before we really meet the main players properly. The film meticulously defines it for us. It is literally that stretch of faded, kind of sickly green linoleum floor. It runs from the cell blocks through the shower room area and then ultimately to the electric chair. The chair itself looks so crude, so exposed. It's the final walk, the path to judgment, and with this chilling inevitability to death. This physical journey is just imbued with immense symbolic weight from the very first time we see it. That color, green, usually life, nature, right? But here it's twisted into this morbid, sickly hue. It represents a path to extinction, not vitality. It visually encapsulates that theme of fatalism. It makes the corridor feel less like a floor and more like a funnel, maybe. A conveyor belt to an inescapable destiny. Even the silence of that walk, just punctuated by the scuff of shoes, feels like it carries the echoes of every life that's walked it before.
And it truly is a grim, almost suffocating reality they paint. The setting, a 1930s Louisiana prison, specifically death row. I mean, that immediately brings to mind harsh conditions, brutal finality, and a justice system, especially for certain people in the American South back then, that often moved with chilling speed. And let's be honest, maybe little regard for due process. So into this inherently oppressive, morally ambiguous place, we meet the main players, the ones who have to navigate its daily horrors. Our protagonist is Paul Edgecomb, played, of course, by Tom Hanks. He's the supervisor, trying to maintain his integrity, his humanity, in a job that constantly threatens to strip both away. When we first meet him in the flashback, Paul's actually suffering from a severe urinary infection. Now, this might seem like a minor detail, almost mundane, right? A simple human ailment in a place dealing with huge existential struggles. But it's It's really a stroke of genius from King and Darabont's adaptation, because this seemingly small personal struggle, it becomes incredibly significant later. It serves as a very human, very vulnerable entry point for the extraordinary events that are coming. It grounds Paul in this relatable physicality, makes his later encounters with the miraculous even more impactful.
Yes, the detailing of his physical discomfort. It really highlights his vulnerability. He's just an ordinary man whose body, much like the system he serves, is fallible. This very specific, almost crude affliction, it sets the stage perfectly for something profoundly extraordinary. It contrasts the mundane with the miraculous beautifully. It makes his journey of belief, all the more compelling later on. But Paul isn't alone in this grim routine. He leads this tight-knit team of guards. There's Brutus Howell, known as Brutal. But his nickname really belies his true nature. Despite being physically intimidating, he's shown as incredibly kind, professional, empathetic even. He's a crucial counterpoint to the harshness all around them. A moral anchor for the team, you could say. Then you have Harry Terwilliger and Dean Stanton. They round out the core group. These are just men doing an inherently tough, dehumanizing job. Yet they strive, you see them striving to maintain some kind of order, decency, even humanity within the confines of a place designed for death.
So you've got this core group, professionals, navigating the daily brutalities, trying to do their job with some compassion. But then, into this already tense, somber environment, this truly disruptive force emerges, almost like a cancer on the block. Percy Wetmore.
Ah, Percy, yes. He's not just a difficult colleague, is he? He is the embodiment of arbitrary, petty cruelty. A character really designed to infuriate you, to appall you. His arrogance, his inherent sadism, his outright cruel demeanor, is a constant source of tension, dread even, on the block. He seems to delight in tormenting the inmates, doing things like purposely scuffing his boots on the linoleum, a small act, but signifies huge disrespect, or purposely delaying execution procedures just to watch the condemned suffer longer. But what's absolutely crucial about Percy, and what tragically explains why his awful behavior is tolerated, despite being so disruptive, so dangerous, it's his connections, his powerful family connections. He's protected because he's related to the governor's wife. And that grants him this horrifying immunity. This political shield lets his abusive tendencies just fester unchecked within the prison system. He becomes a symbol of how privilege can just completely pervert justice, erode even basic standards of conduct. His presence really underscores the deep flaws within the whole institutional framework. It highlights that cruelty isn't always overt, It can be quietly sanctioned by those in power.
So we have this already volatile mix. A tight-knit group trying to keep things decent, a grim setting, and then there's Percy. Yeah, a real thorn in everyone's side, a genuinely vile character, almost a villain in his own right. His unchecked sadism creates this undercurrent of fear, resentment. Even before the real conflict, the central figure of our story actually arrives on the Green Mile.
And this is precisely where the narrative pivots,
Yeah.
dramatically,
Yeah.
where the story stops being just, a prison drama and turns into something truly profound, something challenging.
Indeed. We're talking about the arrival of John Coffey. Spelled like the drink, only not spelled the same. Now, if you were to hear about a man accused of such a monstrous crime, the rape and murder of two young white twin girls, especially in the deeply segregated, racially charged South of the 1930s, your immediate expectation, naturally, would be for a terrifying figure, right? A monster in human form. Society's narrative would demand that. But what actually arrives on the Green Mile is something completely shockingly different. Something that instantly makes Paul and his seasoned guards question every single assumption they hold. Coffey's physically imposing, terrifically large, a true giant of a man who seems to fill the whole hallway. Yet this formidable appearance is immediately contradicted by his demeanor. He's soft-spoken, almost a whisper. He displays this profound, almost heartbreaking childlike innocence. He's terrified of the dark, and he has this incredibly gentle, almost fragile nature. It's this jarring, unbearable contrast. His size, the heinous crime he's accused of, versus his incredibly sensitive, gentle nature that immediately sets Paul and his team on edge. They quickly sense there's something profoundly extraordinary about him, something that just doesn't fit the profile of a monstrous killer. This dissonance is key. It forces the characters and you, the audience, to look beyond surface appearances, beyond societal prejudice.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this immediate dissonance is absolutely vital to the film's thematic power. It compels you and the characters to suspend that initial judgment. It challenges the very facade of justice, the ease with which society condemns. And the first insights into Coffey's true nature, they don't come from some grand revelation, do they? They come from small, almost tender interactions, particularly concerning a certain small creature.
Yes, the mouse, Mr. Jingles. This tiny detail, a little gray mouse in this place of stark concrete and despair, it becomes profoundly symbolic. Mr. Jingles just wanders onto the block, and he's soon befriended by another inmate, Edouard de Little Delacour. He's a Cajun man, also on death row. Known for being a bit erratic, maybe, but he shows this deep affection for the little rodent. The guards, Paul included, in this rare display of leniency, may be driven by a desperate need for some small, fragile bit of kindness in their brutal surroundings. They let Dello keep Mr. Jingles as a pet. They even make him a little spool to roll. This small detail, allowing a pet on death row, it highlights the humanity that can still exist or be clung to, even in the most dehumanizing places. It's a flicker of light. But even this tiny light isn't safe from Percy, his continued petty cruelty. In a truly horrifying, sickening act, he tries to stomp on Mr. Jingles, just crush this small, innocent life for his own twisted amusement. Thankfully, the mouse miraculously survives, scurries away. But this act by Percy, though seemingly minor compared to other things, it serves as this chilling foreshadowing of his later, much worse actions, especially during Dell's tragic execution. It shows his complete lack of empathy, his casual embrace of sadism, his perverse enjoyment of suffering, even when it's directed at the most vulnerable, the most harmless.
It's not just foreshadowing, is it? It's a stark demonstration of his inherent malevolence, a character whose cruelty is just unprovoked and absolute. It underscores that contrast between true evil and the possibility of innate good. And it's against this backdrop, this cruelty and desperation, that Paul, and soon the other guards, start to witness the truly inexplicable miracles performed by Coffey. These aren't subtle things, not coincidences. They're profound, undeniable acts of healing that defy all logic, all science. The first is when Coffey cures Paul's severe urinary infection. Coffey just reaches out, lays his massive hand on Paul, and absorbs the illness. And then, in this viscerally disturbing yet undeniably miraculous way, a swarm of black, insect-like particles visibly comes out of Paul's mouth. Then they just vanish. It's a physical, tangible representation of the illness being drawn out, expelled. The visual of it is both horrifying and awe-inspiring. Then, in a moment that really solidifies his powers after Percy's cruel assault on the mouse, Coffey gently brings Mr. Jingles back to life. He reverses death itself for this tiny creature. These initial miracles, they aren't just about physical healing.
They are about revealing Coffey's fundamental, maybe divine nature. They shatter those initial assumptions based on his size, his conviction. They show him to be a vessel of pure healing, innate empathy, profound sensitivity to others' pain. This isn't a monster. This is something entirely different, something holy, perhaps, something utterly beyond human understanding. Paul's internal struggle, you see him moving from skepticism to this dawning awe, then to undeniable conviction. That's what really hooks you into the story.
Yeah, you witness his disbelief first, then that profound awe as he desperately tries to process what he's seeing, what his mind just can't comprehend. These aren't coincidences. They're not tricks of the light. There are undeniable, visceral acts of divine intervention. And from that point on, Paul's conviction about John Coffey's absolute innocence and his possession of these miraculous powers, it just grows stronger. It transforms from a suspicion into this unshakable belief. This profound conviction then drives him to a truly dangerous decision, life-threatening, ethically ambiguous, one that risks everything he has, everything he is.
A decision just fraught with immense personal risk, ethical quandaries, the potential to destroy his career, his reputation, maybe even land him in prison. It's a moment that forces Paul to choose, doesn't it, between the letter of the law and this profound moral truth he now believes.
Exactly. Paul decides with this desperate conviction to secretly take Coffey out of the prison one night. Just think about the implications of that. It's an act that brazenly violates every rule. It jeopardizes not only their jobs, their pensions, but potentially their lives. They could end up in prison themselves for aiding a condemned man. The risk is just unimaginable, and the audacious purpose behind it all. To help Melinda Moores. She's the beloved wife of the warden, Hal Moores, and she's dying this slow, excruciating death from an inoperable brain tumor. Her life is just constant agony for her husband. So this isn't just about saving a life. It's about Paul acting on this profound moral imperative, a desperate gamble that this man, John Coffey, has been sent to them for a divine purpose, and that denying his gift would somehow be a greater sin than breaking the law. So Paul is facing this incredible, soul-wrenching moral dilemma. How do you reconcile what you now know about this man, what you've seen him do with the heinous crime he's accused of, and the ultimate irreversible sentence he faces? He makes an incredible, life-threatening choice here, driven purely by an unshakable belief in a truth that transcends human law, transcends logic. It's really an act of faith against a system based on facts.
And this incredible, audacious choice, it leads to the most profound and undeniable display of Coffey's powers. It solidifies the guard's conviction beyond any shadow of a doubt. The scene where Coffey heals Melinda Moores. It's absolutely pivotal, a moment of breathtaking, almost sacred intensity. He lays his massive hands on her, and just like with Paul, he draws out, absorbs her devastating illness. But this time, it's a brain tumor, a condition that medical science then and often even now would say is utterly incurable. As he performs this agonizing transfer, Paul, Brutal, the other guards, they watch in this stunned, reverent silence. Her complete, instantaneous healing Melinda isn't just better, she's immediately vibrant, lucid, free of pain. It's a profound, undeniable miracle. It's not just a turning point for Paul, it's a collective epiphany for all the guards present. They are now irrevocably, fully convinced. Coffey is a true miracle worker, a divine vessel of healing, certainly not the killer the world thinks he is. This shared secret experience binds them together. It separates them fundamentally from the outside world, from the conventional justice system, from the rest of humanity, really. They've witnessed something beyond comprehension, and you know it's going to haunt them forever.
It's a moment that changes everything for them. It fundamentally shifts their understanding of their duties, their belief, the very nature of justice itself. They've seen it, a truth that no courtroom, no legal procedure could ever account for.
And then comes the shattering revelation, the moment that pulls back the curtain on the entire tragedy. Coffey, having absorbed this tremendous concentrated badness, the pain of Melinda's tumor, he doesn't just dispel it into the air like he did with Paul's infection, no. Instead, with this guttural roar, he deliberately transfers this accumulated suffering, this concentration of pure human anguish and corruption, into Percy. This act isn't random. It feels like a form of ultimate poetic justice, or maybe a necessary release of the immense pain Coffey carries, directing it towards a source of genuine, unrepentant cruelty. The effect is immediate, horrifying. Percy is driven into the state of profound, shrieking insanity, his mind utterly broken by the influx of this pure, malignant energy. And in his induced madness, stripped of all pretense, all control, Percy then shoots William Wild Bill Wharton. Wharton was this truly sadistic, unpredictable, genuinely evil inmate. He'd been a constant source of terror and chaos on the block, a real monster among men. What's utterly fascinating here is that this chaotic, visceral violence directly precedes the ultimate aha moment. The shocking truth that completely recontextualizes everything, changes your perception of all that's happened.
It's a terrifying sequence of events, isn't it? Each one leading inevitably to the raw, undeniable truth.
Exactly. Through Coffey's psychic vision, which he shares with Paul and the others just by touching them, the horrific, undeniable truth of the twin murders is revealed. With brutal clarity, they experience the past. They see Wharton, not Coffey, as the true depraved murderer of the girls. His cruelty, his perversion laid bare right before their eyes. This is the ultimate aha moment for the characters, and profoundly for you, the audience. Now this raises that important question, why does Coffey transfer the illness to Percy? It's not just, I think, vindictive punishment, though it certainly serves that function. It feels more like a transfer of the badness, the pain, a kind of divine judgment revealing the true darkness residing in Wharton, who is the real source of the girl's suffering. Coffey, in his unique divine capacity, isn't only a healer, but also, in this deeply tragic way, an agent of ultimate truth, a vessel for purging the world's accumulated sin and pain. His actions, while seeming violent, are actually this profound act of restorative justice, revealing the truth even as he absorbs the consequences himself.
And just like that, the whole narrative flips. The man they were about to execute, the supposed monster, he's revealed as a savior, a pure, innocent, almost divine being. But here's where the story becomes truly heartbreaking, a profound, unbearable tragedy. Despite knowing unequivocally that Coffey is innocent, despite witnessing his miracles, the truth about Wharton, Paul is faced with this agonizing, impossible moral choice. There's no legal way out, no mechanism to undo the conviction, no way to explain miracles to a rational, skeptical legal system in the 1930s without sounding completely insane. The system is rigid,
Unyielding.
blind to a truth it just cannot comprehend.
The machinery of the state, right.
Yeah.
Once it's set in motion, it just cannot be stopped, regardless of these moral revelations. It's a terrifying demonstration of systemic inertia.
Right. And then, adding this almost unbearable layer to the agony, John Coffey himself makes a heart-wrenching plea. He asks to be executed. His reason is utterly devastating. He says he's tired. Just tired of feeling all the pain in the world. He absorbs everyone's suffering, every cruelty, every injustice, every sorrow, and the sheer overwhelming weight of it all has become too much for him to bear. He can't continue to exist in a world that inflicts so much suffering. Imagine that. Really try to put yourself in Paul's shoes. Knowing the absolute truth, knowing you're about to execute an innocent man, a man who brought light, healing, truth, and he asks for it, begs for release from a world overflowing with pain. It's just an unimaginable burden for Paul and his team. Grappling with the profound moral horror of executing a truly innocent, divine being, their conscience is now inextricably linked to this act, a shared complicity in something they know is fundamentally wrong, yet they feel powerless to stop. The only path forward seems to be granting his final agonizing wish for peace.
The execution scene itself. It's depicted with immense gravity. A profound sense of sorrow hangs over everything. Coffey is strapped into the electric chair, old, sparky, and even in his final moments, his last words are incredibly kind, peaceful, filled with his tragic understanding, emphasizing his gentle, forgiving nature right up until the very end. Paul's hesitation as he stands there at the switch, it's palpable. It feels like it stretches out forever. He is visibly overcome with guilt, sorrow, the crushing weight of the profound injustice he's about to facilitate. But he ultimately, reluctantly, throws the switch. Fulfilling his duty within the flawed legal system that demands this sacrifice, the guards' emotional response is just raw, powerful, utterly heartbreaking. They sob openly as Coffey dies, tears streaming down their faces. It highlights the collective tragedy, their shared burden of having participated in this ultimate injustice. It's a moment of unparalleled emotional devastation, I think, both for the characters and for you, the viewer, witnessing the death of pure innocence.
Oh, it's a moment that just rips your heart out
Yes.
because you understand they're doing what they feel they have to do, what the system demands, but it is so, so profoundly wrong. And then the film masterfully brings us back to the present, to elderly Paul in the nursing home, as he finishes telling Elaine this incredible, devastating, ultimately haunting story. And it's here that we truly grasp the enduring, miraculous consequences of Coffey's presence, the long shadow his brief time on Earth cast over Paul's entire life.
This is where that long shadow of the past, filled with both miracle and immense regret, extends right into the present. It demonstrates the indelible mark left by Coffey's divine touch. Old Paul reveals a truly astonishing fact. Mr. Jingles, the mouse, the tiny creature Coffey saved. He's still alive. Miraculously aged, yes, but his little body is still strong, healthy, living far, far beyond the natural lifespan of any mouse. This isn't just some charming detail or a narrative flourish. It's the physical, living, undeniable proof of Coffey's divine touch. A tiny, beating heart defying the natural order of time and mortality, forever linked to the man who saved it. But then there's Paul himself. He has lived an unusually, unnaturally long life, far, far beyond the normal human lifespan. He's outlived everyone he ever knew. And his profound belief, the way he explains it, is that this extended lonely life is his enduring punishment, his penance for having executed a miracle of God. The burden of conscience, the crushing weight of that memory, that's his lifelong penance. A constant living reminder of the profound decision he made, the unspeakable knowledge he carries, the injustice he facilitated. It's a suffering, not of physical pain, perhaps, but of unending knowledge, of having to bear witness to the world's cyclical injustices from this unnatural vantage point.
It's a truly heavy thought, isn't it? That eternal guilt, that living, breathing reminder of such a profound moment of injustice.
It raises this important, deeply philosophical question, doesn't it? Is Paul's extended life truly just a punishment? Or is it something more complex, a continuation of the miraculous, maybe, a unique form of grace that paradoxically condemns him to endless remembrance? Perhaps it's both. It's certainly a unique form of suffering to outlive everyone you know, to carry that memory, that burden of knowing for decades, for what feels like centuries longer than any human should. His extended life forces him to perpetually revisit that moment he flicked the switch. It's like a constant internal crucifixion of conscience.
So what does all this mean for us, the audience, long after the credits roll? Beyond the intricate plot, the heart-wrenching characters, The Green Mile explores some incredibly profound, timeless themes that really resonate. Let's start with perhaps the most obvious one, the central one, justice versus injustice. The film presents this glaring, almost unbearable contrast between the legal justice served John Coffey's execution and the profound moral, maybe even divine, injustice of it all. It forces you to question the very foundation of capital punishment. It highlights the inherent fallibility of any justice system that deals in irreversible sentences. When a legal system bound by flawed human evidence, rigid procedure condemns an innocent, maybe even divine being, does it cease to be just? And what then is our duty to moral truth when it conflicts so violently with the law?
Exactly. And it implicitly, powerfully touches on racial bias, a brutal reality of that time. Given Coffey's swift conviction as a black man in the deeply prejudiced 1930s South, where trials were often far from fair, justice anything but blind his fate highlights how easily the system can condemn the innocent, especially when compounded by societal prejudice. It's a potent critique of how justice can be corrupted by both human fallibility and systemic inequity. But moving deeper, the film also profoundly explores the nature of miracles and the supernatural. Coffey is, well, he's unequivocally portrayed as a Christ-like figure, almost an archetype of purity and sacrifice. His healing powers, his absolute innocence, his willingness to absorb the suffering of others, his ultimate sacrificial death for a world that wrongly condemns him. Even the resurrection of Mr. Jingles. All these things echo fundamental narrative elements of Christ. The presence of the miraculous in such a cruel, mundane world, specifically within the grim, unholy confines of a death row prison, it challenges our perception of where and how the divine can manifest. It forces us to ask, is belief in the miraculous a choice? Or is it an undeniable truth when you're faced with such evidence? And how do people react to it? With belief, with doubt, or with fear and profound cruelty like Percy personifies? If we connect this to the bigger picture, Coffey isn't just a character, he's an archetype. He forces us to confront our preconceived notions of good, evil, the divine. He asks us to really consider where holiness might reside, even in the most unexpected corners.
And it really makes you think, doesn't it, about how we, in our modern world, would react if a truly divine presence, an embodiment of purity and healing, walked among us today. Especially if they came from the margins of society. Would we recognize them? Or would we condemn them based on our own biases, our own systems?
That's a truly challenging thought. Another powerful, deeply human theme is empathy and redemption. Coffey's presence acts as this powerful catalyst for change, for profound reflection in many characters. Most notably Paul, and even the outwardly hardened, brutal Howell. Their journey from being cynical or just routine correctional officers, maybe desensitized by their grim work, to becoming men deeply affected by Coffey's innocence and goodness. That's central to the film's emotional core. They are redeemed, perhaps not from sin in the traditional sense, but from a creeping numbness, awakened to a deeper compassion, a profound sense of moral responsibility. The film emphasizes that even small acts of kindness, like letting Dell keep Mr. Jingles or a guard offering a final cigarette, they get magnified in this dehumanizing context. They become profound gestures of humanity in an environment designed to strip it away. It shows that even in the darkest places, light can emerge and fundamentally change people.
Yeah, it underscores how even in those darkest, seemingly irredeemable places, compassion can emerge. It can fundamentally transform people, leading them towards a deeper understanding of themselves and the world. And then there's that crushing, lifelong weight of the burden of conscience. Paul's exceptionally long life is portrayed not as a blessing, right? Not as a gift of extended time, but as this heavy, unrelenting burden, a constant, living reminder of the decision he made, the innocent man he had to send to his death.
Yes, it's a unique and profound form of personal hell, isn't it? An eternal penance. The film explores the collective guilt shared by Paul and the other guards who carried out the execution. They're forever bound by the secret, haunting knowledge of what they did. Their hands stained by an undeniable injustice. This raises a deeply compelling question. What does it truly mean to live with profound moral choices? Especially those where your actions may be compelled by circumstance or systemic pressure, lead to an irreversible injustice. What's fascinating here is how the film suggests that some burdens, some profound consequences of our actions, especially those that weigh on the soul, they can follow us for an entire lifetime, shaping our very existence, transforming even a supposed gift, like extended life, into this continuous, agonizing form of suffering. It implies that true justice, or perhaps true retribution, can be an internal, lifelong sentence.
It really leaves you with that haunting question. How do you live with that? How do you move on from such a profound act of complicity and injustice?
Maybe you don't. Maybe you just exist with it, bearing witness to a world that continues its cycle of suffering and injustice, perhaps with the faint hope that by living, by remembering, some form of understanding, maybe even atonement, can be achieved.
And that, ultimately, is part of the enduring, unforgettable power of The Green Mile. It's far more than just a deeply emotional, poignant story or merely a powerful prison drama. It truly transcends its genre. It becomes this meditation on the nature of good and evil. Its enduring legacy is absolutely due to its powerful, captivating performances, especially Michael Clarke Duncan as John Coffey. His gentle giant portrayal earned him that Oscar nomination, and of course Tom Hanks as Paul Edgecomb, anchoring the film with his moral compass, his agonizing humanity. But more than that, its lasting impact comes from its profound exploration of morality, justice, and the very real, sometimes heartbreaking presence of the miraculous in a cruel, unfeeling world. It forces you to confront your own beliefs about that line between right and wrong and the power of compassion in the face of inevitable fate.
And this leaves us with a truly provocative thought, I think, to consider long after our deep dive ends. If true miracles can indeed occur, if beings like John Coffey can walk among us, absorbing the world's pain, manifesting divine healing, what does that say about the nature of justice as we construct it? Or indeed, what does it imply about the very fabric of our reality? especially when those miracles occur in the darkest, most unexpected places, like a death row cell block. Does it make the injustices we perpetrate even more unbearable, knowing what we might be casting aside? Or does it offer a sliver of hope that something greater, something transcendent is always at play, even in our moments of deepest despair and moral failure?
A truly profound thought to leave us with, a question that definitely lingers long after the credits roll. Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the Green Mile. We hope these insights encourage you to reflect on its powerful, timeless themes and perhaps even revisit the film with a fresh, maybe more critical and compassionate perspective. Until next time, keep diving deep.